Hello friends, my name is Manoj Agrawal. I'm the group editor at Banking Frontiers magazine. We do a lot of interviews with experts on various topics relating to the financial sector. Today we're taking up the topic of artificial intelligence. And I have the pleasure of having with me for this interview, Mr. Whit Andrews. He's from Gartner, and he's going to share with us his insights about what's happening in the field of artificial intelligence as it relates to the financial sector. Welcome, Whit. How are you?
Very well indeed. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I really appreciate your invitation.
Our pleasure. Would you like to briefly introduce, say a few things about yourself, your background?
I'd love to. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I've been with Gartner for more than 20 years. And before I was at Gartner, I was a business journalist covering the rise of the commercial internet. Artificial intelligence, whether I wanted it to be or not, has always been a part of my professional life.
AI has been around for 50 odd years as a concept, starting with science fiction. And of course, it was fiction at those times. But in today's scenario, what is the success rate for AI projects?
It's an interesting phenomenon. What I've seen happen in the last 5 years is that about 20% of CIOs are successful in achieving employment of AI in any given 12-month period. That's not high. So what I mean by that is we do our CIO agenda survey every year. One of the questions we ask is, where do you stand on employing the following advanced technologies? And we give them a list of technologies. We ask them, are you using it now? Will you use it in less than 12 months, less than 24 months, less than 36 months, or at some future date? And AI has been challenging. So every year in those years, about 25% of CIOs have told us that they don't have AI yet, but they will have it within 12 months.
Okay.
However, 12 months later, when we ask the same CIOs, the same base of CIOs, the number that has actually increased is just 5%.
Oh.
So 25% of CIOs say, not yet, but soon. But only 1/5 of those people actually satisfy that ambition. So I don't know the overall success for all application projects or software projects, but I do know that AI has been particularly challenging, that organizations with the ambition to achieve AI find it hard to do so. I hope that's a helpful answer.
Yes, it is. So in what ways is the cost life cycle for an AI project different from the cost life cycle for a traditional software project?
Sure.
More front-loading or backloading or something else?
I love that. It's a great question. It's such a good question because maybe you've heard it said, data is the new code. So because data is the new code, the expenditures necessary, the investments necessary to address artificial intelligence take a different shape. The bulge appears in a different place. So where in the past, you probably started with a blank board, a blank whiteboard, and you said, let's build the modules that we'll need for code.
Fair enough. That's a good explanation. Thanks, Whit. Let's go on then. So in your experience in the financial sector, do most AI projects in these days tend to be over-ambitious or under-ambitious or just about right?
We talk mostly to the organizations who have been either too ambitious or not ambitious enough, right? Because if it was just right, they may not have called me to express their fear, right? But I think it is more often that the company's project, that the company is not ambitious enough.
Okay.
Projects are often just right or too ambitious. I mean, you never know. But most companies today should be creating an ambition for themselves where they have a portfolio of AI projects. That portfolio should be managed by a central team. The organization should, its AI projects should be sponsored by a C-level executive, chief data officer, chief information officer. These are common. Chief technology officer is also common. Yeah. That's how they should be ambitious. Their ambition should be that at the C level, there is visibility into what they're doing with AI. Mm-hmm. That's the most important ambition to have. The sponsor should be at the C level. The budget should be at the C level. Leadership should be at the data or the analytics or the IT level. And the whole organization should be pressing to incorporate artificial intelligence into all their operations. That's what the ambition should feel like.
If you're saying that it should be AI centric, so what kind of business strategies do you see organizations commonly adopting that have adopted an AI first exposure? And perhaps I'm talking more about fintechs. Perhaps I'm talking about the new newer neobanks and those kind of organizations. So what business strategies?
The most important thing that organizations are doing is recognizing that AI allows them to scale their ambition in a way they could not before. So if before they were approving 1,000 loans an hour, that is interesting. An organization that is successful says, we would like to approve 2,000 loans per hour or 10,000 loans per hour. Okay. And then they say to themselves, they do not say, how does this change my payroll? They do not say, how does this change my staffing level? They do say, how does this change what kind of loan I can offer? So they say, if I can approve 10 times as many loans, does that mean that I should do loans that are 1/10 the size that I used to? So if I used to approve 1,000 loans of $1,000 every hour, but now I can approve 10,000 loans, should I do 10,000 loans and many of them or most of them be just $100? So does this mean that my business now can depend on a different way of thinking about scale? If I used to do 1,000 customer interactions every hour, but now I can do 10,000 customer interactions an hour, what kind of interactions should I encourage? Should I encourage my customer to call me every day? Should I encourage my customer to text me every hour? Is there a difference in how I relate to my customer that my new scale allows me to do? That is the massive disruption, is this idea of invisible and visible amplification of scale that changes the way organizations can present themselves to the customers that they have and the customers that they can win.
So do you see a lot of fintechs and neobanks being driven by AI first?
What I'll say is this: the vertical of financial services has invested more in artificial intelligence than any other vertical. So we have seen that that adoption of AI in financial services is higher than adoption of AI in any other vertical. Initially, the verticals that were most interested were retail, healthcare, and higher education. And that's been years ago now. But today, financial services has access to the data. And because financial services is inherently more digital than manufacturing or commodities or human services, because financial services is so digital as a native aspect of their offering, they have more data and they have more capacity to react to analysis with a novel approach. So that's what makes financial services a leader in this space.
That makes sense, yes. Have you seen major disruptions in AI models due to changes in customer behavior during the pandemic? And if so, how have companies fixed that?
Absolutely. We know that customers, we're all experiencing a change in our psychological reaction to the world around us. And everyone has a different reaction, a different feeling, and a different approach. What we've seen is that artificial intelligence has allowed organizations to move to accelerate their adoption of digital vision so much faster. The more digital you are, the more data you have, and more able you are to employ that data and employ the lessons that live inside it in a way that allows you to react to your customers' needs and your workers' needs in a fashion that you previously could not. So if you are digital first, organizations who are either were digital first before the pandemic or were forced to become digital first during the pandemic have more data, have more knowledge, and have a foundation which will make them more successful as we move through the pandemic and into a new stage of commercial, social, and political reality. What that means is we've seen enormous expenditures within organizations to address the stresses that the pandemic caused them in terms of access to capital, access to revenue, access to talent, and even access to customers. We know that any number of organizations have seen more excitement and interest from their customers in particular aspects of their offerings. I helped an entrepreneur whose business switched from opening a restaurant to opening a food truck.
Oh.
And because they opened a food truck, they immediately had access to new transactional data that they would never have previously had. As organizations established richer, clearer, more comprehensive relationships with their customers and constituents using digital means. That doesn't mean it was easy. It doesn't mean everyone was successful, but it does mean we're all moving toward a model where scale is greater, transactions are more numerous, the relationship can be more narrow, but at the same time, it can be more rich because its dimensionality has expanded.
Yes.
That's the big change.
Fantastic. So in one sentence, if I may summarize, a good AI system will make business more agile, even during pandemic times.
Absolutely so. We're moving from everyone being one big individual to people being flocks and swarms and reacting at a much more granular and organic level. Thank you. That was a terrific way to say it, Manoj.
Yes, good. Well, thank you, Whit, for all these insights. That's been a wonderful discussion.